on Sunday, very unusual. And the topic that was given to me is also very broad, and it's proven and known as well. How the women educators are the catalyst to bringing the social change. Before I get into the topic, I would like to take last 10 years what's been changing in India. There's a huge mission that we were on, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. I know it's been there for a long time, but this has become very popular for the simple reason that the mission has started with certain objectives, and those are measurable objectives. And there's a lot of data behind that. If you take about 9.5 million teachers in India, 74% of them are in rural areas. Out of that 74%, only 24% of them are women. It shows the gap in terms of what's been happening in rural India. Probably when we talk about this topic, how they can be a catalyst for social change, if you look at these numbers, probably it gives a different perspective wherein had we had more teachers in rural India, the situation might have been different. Because we appreciate when we get certain things only when we lack them. While these things have been improving in last 10 years, the numbers have been shown that there's been a lot of awareness. Thanks to the technology, all these campaigns have been reaching to the remotest villages possible, and the fruits have been visible. And the government came up with this Viksit Bharat concept. I'm sure that in the developed nation, we are not going to see these huge gaps in terms of gender ratio or even the birth rate, sex ratio. These are the social issues that we are looking at. Coming back to the topic, we all know that how women would influence, because naturally a teacher has got tendency, when I say teacher, the woman teacher has a tendency to be a great teacher because of the multitasking nature, be it various roles starting from mom or daughter, daughter-in-law, so on and so forth. And to the empathy that she naturally carries, builds a good relationship with the children and has a huge impact when they try to bring in at the engage of the students. While we all recognize that it's been going well, but in last 10 years, based on my experience in IT or working in various countries, and in last 4 years being in education field, started noticing two huge challenges teachers have been facing, both personally and professionally. And I would say this is a very important point wherein the people in this room as leaders should be actively pursuing to see how we can address these. The first point, when it comes to the personal side of it, as a nation or as a society, we all had a different approach in terms of the social fabric, wherein we had support from generations. When I say generations, I had grandmother and grandfather at home when I was a child. And if I see my children, yes, they do get exposure, but it's not being the same. With the nuclear families that's been going on, where is the social support that the teachers are getting? So in this current context, personally, I feel teachers need a lot of emotional support. Are we doing enough? I think that's an area where we definitely need to focus upon, and probably we should have some approach, learning from what has happened in other industries. So I can only share from the IT perspective, where we had a lot of support that is being provided to the women employees, be it counseling, be it parenting sessions, be it well-being sessions. There's been enough care that's been taken care by the industry, and enough budgets have been allocated. Do we have that scenario? I think it's time to think about it and start working towards making it happen. The second one is about the professional side of it. We all talk about professional development when it comes to bridging the gaps related to the academic side of it. But how about the impact of technology? When we talk about the impact of the technology, if I take the screen addiction, the numbers are mind-blowing. Out of the 2.5 billion Instagram subscribers, 480 million subscribers are from India. They don't provide the age-specific information related to out of those 480 million from India, how many are in what age category. Very similar number comes from YouTube, 2 billion numbers. And if I talk about the number of views that they get, $700 billion Instagram reels are being viewed on daily basis. If I'm on the IT side, we all celebrate with the increase in subscriptions, with the increase in revenues, because the minds have worked very hard to decode the brain through the neural networks, and created excellent algorithms to get the people onto the platform. If I change my role, being on the educator side, it's very, very disturbing. What is the influence of this content, not only on the student, but also on the teacher? I'm here focusing more on the teacher side. As adults, we ourselves are finding it difficult to detach from the screen. And if we don't act now, it's going to have a huge influence. Because if I take another data point from Government of India statistics, teachers have got a tendency of 40% more than the national average when it comes to the suicides or suicidal risk. It's time again to focus on emotional well-being of a teacher. I'm not just covering that part of it, the exposure of the students to this content and their behavior in the classrooms is also a huge challenge that we are all trying to address. and think about the impact of that on the teacher. On one front, I talked about the personal side of the teacher with no emotional support being get, or not to the extent of emotional support. On the other front, the impact of the technology that is putting both professionally and personally on the teacher. And unfortunately in India, psychology or psychiatrists have been short. All those whom we have educated have gone to US or UK or Australia or New Zealand. And the numbers, if I talk about, we have 0.17% against the 3% desired per 1 lakh population. 2017, we had about 9,500 psychiatric professionals in India for such a vast nation. Compared to the US numbers, probably they have got more than 95,000. For their populations, they have 17 psychiatrists per 1 lakh population. Why I'm bringing these numbers is, we are really short of doing enough to provide that support. I'm not deviating from the topic, wherein how the woman will have a huge, or will become a huge catalyst for the social change. Imagine if we can address these challenges that I talked about, how effective they would be to make it happen. Let me tell you a small story. There's a young boy from a village of a population 3,000. I'm not even talking about a small village, where the literacy rate may be around less than 10%. Had to go to the school wherein a teacher likes the student by finding some qualities. That's the beauty of the teachers, where they are the people who would notice both good and bad. And they have the power to correct those who are not going in the right direction. And they have the power to shape up the talent that they are at. Gives 5 paise to that student to come to the school every day so that he'll become regular to the school. Moving forward, this child gets exposed to a protest by the grandmother who is scolding his son not to stop the education of that grandchild by sending him to the next town or the city. I'm going to fast forward that with small snippets. Then this again young boy goes to the city following his footsteps of brother, struggles to move from one medium to the other medium, works hard, joins engineering, and sees all his friends trying to prepare for TOEFL GRE. That was the trend those in 90s. And being from this medium, it's very difficult to crack those, to get their American dream. Thanks to the IT revolution, the young man gets a job, gets married, and goes to a foreign country. Again faces the challenge in terms of communicating to them with the different accents. Most complex in the world is British accent, with different dialects of Scottish, Wales, and Irish. Then again corrected by the wife, as a teacher, gets to grow in this career. And the person standing in front of you talking about the social change and how they can be a catalyst to bring in this. It's not about my story, it's about the gratitude I have. Before I conclude, you have to remember some of those iconic personalities who had a huge influence on the society. Starting with, do we all know who's the first woman employee of Tata Motors? Those days it's called Telco. Sudha. The influence she had in terms of inspiring the people, but when she had an opportunity to give it back to the society, the amount of work that she has done, starting the libraries in rural India, promoting the girl child education. Then the first physician in India, the first female doctor, Anandibai Joshi. Thanks to her, the recent study shows girls are taking more medical, there are more medical students. They have surpassed the boys in the recent study. Especially in South India, it's touching about 65% to 35% boys and girls. And that's the first step took by her. We all know Kiran Bedi's story. From zero, now we have 12% of IPS officers in India. There's about 28% women policemen. Then talk about Durgabai Deshmukh. Probably people would know about her, who had vision about the women empowerment through the education and service. It's a great story. Let me talk about Roshni Nadar Malhotra, the chairman of, CEO of HCL Technologies. Probably if you look at the largest IT companies, BTCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, that's been one of the companies where it's a true inspiration, not because she's the daughter of Shiv Nadar, but the way that she has been shaping up the organization. And her passion towards skilling. That's one of the companies wherein they're doing a true job, wherein they take engineering graduates, skill them and employ them. All others select from the college for the jobs, whereas they train and let others hire or they hire. These are the, personalities where we cannot forget. But what I want to say is, we would be a different India if we start working on focusing on what we are already doing. I know if I see the gender ratio here, I know the celebration is about the women who have achieved. Otherwise also, when I come across these conferences, we were given bonus in IT industry to get to 30% of women employees. But whereas here it is very fascinating. But that's the passion women carries. And that's the influence they have on the society. And let's work together in addressing few challenges or the perspectives that I've shared to get it going. Thank you, everyone.